Okay, we'll do a short review of strings, and then we'll get into a bunch of useful string methods, and we'll learn how they work and everything. So first thing, we've seen it a bunch before, but we want to go over it again is dot length. So if I have a string here, what will dot length be? Yeah, it'll be 3 in this instance, but yeah, it always just depends on how long the string is. So it's like the array dot length. And you can also like loop over a string like you would an array. You access the characters the same as you would an array. So if you have the string cat again, bracket 1, what'll this be? Yeah, it'll be A. A. But we usually don't see it like right on. It looks kind of weird with the quotes there. So I'm going to go ahead and assign a variable that we can use for this thing. So const, let's do let in case we want to change it. Let's do Frederick. Then we'd be wondering about name.length or name at the index of 1. So now what is name at the index of 1? R. Am I not getting responses just because it's such an easy question? Yeah, okay, cool. We already know. We know all this stuff. We know dot length and we know the bracket notation here. Okay, let's move on to the methods then. So index of. And all these methods are going to work the same in the sense that we have the string and then we just say dot and then whatever the method is. So if index of is used for when you're trying to find where in the string a character is. So this is useful for, let's say you're checking to see if it's a email address. You can do an index of for the @ symbol. Oh, that's not at. There you go. Fred. Bmail.com. So, and it will tell you the index as, you know, index 0, 1, 2. So what will this one return? 4, because index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. So that's index of. Last index of is the same. But what will it give us in this situation? It starts from the end of this string and then looks for it coming in. So what would it return to us here?
It's looking for the, you say it just starts from the back, or is it looking for the last instance?
It's looking for the last index of it. So in this situation, it'd be the same, right? It'd still be 4. But, you know, if we had 2 ats in here, maybe to check to see if it only had, well, I don't know, that's a bad example. If it only had 1 @ symbol, so if we had another @ symbol here, if these 2 weren't the same, then we'd know that it's got 2 ats. Oh, that's not an @ symbol. I keep on trying to use the ampersand.
Maybe we're looking for the last instance.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. So I am. Cool. Okay, match uses regex. You might need to help me out with this, Martin.
Sure.
Or just take over if you want to.
All right. You want to go over there?
You want to come up here? Okay. So Martin's the regex expert. So
I am by no means a regex
he does
expert,
everything there is to know about regex.
but basically,
I've got so many questions.
oh, really? So dot match is a method that regex is basically just like a system that allows you to specify a search pattern and a much more complex search pattern. So you could search, for example, for a string, or you can search for a string that begins with this letter and then ends with this letter and then has these 3 letters in between. So you can create very complex search patterns. But for dot match, I guess, and if you have questions or if you really want to use it, you probably won't be using it right now, but maybe as we get into React, where you'll have to sort through a lot of really complicated data, you might be using something like this. But if you wanted to just use it like in a basic way, you can do something, you can specify a pattern, and that's usually done by doing // and then whatever's in here will be the pattern that you're looking for. So if we're trying to do it, if we're trying to run it against name, and we just want to see whether the Rick exists, we would say, what did you call that variable? Name. So we're checking to see whether the string name contains these 4 letters in sequence. And then let me run it now. Oh yeah?
So this would be like a great use case for, say, doing an email and making sure there's an ad.
Yeah, exactly. You can check to see whether an @ symbol exists. But usually regex is like for much more, there are a lot easier tools. There are like easier tools. For example, you could just check to see, you would just probably use index of, and then if I don't know if Eric covered this, but if a character doesn't exist, then what index of returns is -1. So if it exists, it'll return the index of that character. If it doesn't exist, then it'll return -1. So if you wanted to check to see whether the email address contained the @ symbol, then you could check for the @ symbol with index of, and then if it returns -1, then you know that that string does not contain the @ symbol. But let's see what this returns. Let me comment out these console logs. So dot match returns an array. It has a couple of things. So it has the search pattern that you specified, the index where it was found, the entire string that you were trying to search through, and then groups, which is, this is a regex thing where you can specify, there are like different modifiers for this expression. Like say, for example, if you add something after the second // like a G flag, that just says, make this global. Usually match will stop once it finds the first match. But if you wanted to keep looking to see if there's another rig after the first rig, then you could add different modifiers, and then you can group these modifiers together. So that's what would be covered under groups. But it's a lot more complex, I guess, searching with regex expressions. And usually you don't have to unless you're like really trying to find something very specific and you're sorting through a very big data set. Yeah, the G flag would be global. I think there's also an I flag for case insensitive. So say, for example, if I was looking for Rick with a capital C, but I don't care if it's a capital C or not, maybe someone misspelled it, or like say, for example, if you're looking for all the Ricks, but you don't know whether the person, when they entered their name, if they entered it with a capital R or a lowercase r, then you could add the I flag. There are a bunch of flags, but I and G are probably some of the most common. And then the I would say, I don't care whether this is uppercase or lowercase, find it in any casing. And then G is what tells match to keep looking after it finds the first match.
So would regex be something good to learn, or would it be a little overwhelming?
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Like, this is a very basic pattern. Usually you wouldn't even have, here I just input the pattern directly, but usually you'll define a new pattern. So you would say something like, and this isn't something. Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, but it is good to know, like for interview questions, from the interviews that I've been to, they've asked me at least twice about like regex stuff. So just to have a general idea, that way you can at least say, well, I know it's like, you can use it to look for, or you can create patterns that can search through data or something like that, or for complex.
What kind of questions they asked you
I think once they ask me to use it for one of the, usually you have like sample problems that they give you to work and you have like 30 minutes to solve it or something like that. So they asked me to use it for one of the sample problems. And then another time they just asked me if I was familiar with it. So I just said, I mean, I have general knowledge. Regex, R-E-G-E-X. Yeah, and it's not JavaScript specific. And also the syntax isn't JavaScript specific. I think other languages use it as well, but the syntax might be a little different. For JavaScript, this is how we do it. And then we could say something like, and actually, this is for match. Okay. Did you go over replace, Eric?
No.
Okay. So we could say something like replace. So let's say we're looking for Rick. And then we'll add the global flag. That way we can keep looking for any matches. And then regex match isn't the only regex method. There are a couple of them. So we could do something like, actually, I'll just do this. So we're going to look for Rick. We're going to use the replace method. And also, I don't know if Eric covered this, but when we say methods, all it means is that it's a function that's inside of an object. So when you're using the replace method, the global string object, so what we use to make any new string, is just an object. And inside of that object, just as normal objects have a ton of properties, replace is one of the properties. And that property is a function. So when we're referencing replace, we're telling JavaScript, look at the global string object and look for a method called replace, and then run whatever that method is in this instance. But this syntax is very common. Whenever you see the dot, whatever notation, that means that they're referencing, if it's like a string or if it's a number, they're referencing the global string or the global number object, so the global object. So here we're going to be replacing, instead of creating the pattern in here, we already created a variable here where we save the pattern to. So we're just going to say, look at the pattern, look for this pattern, and then replace it with cool. So we're saying, look at the string name, look for this pattern, in this case, any instance of Rick. So if you find one, keep searching because we have the global flag specified, and then replace it with cool. So now if we console log name, we should see,
Good question.
yeah, Fred cool. Oh, whoa, 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 what happened?
So why is that? Why doesn't?
Oh, actually, I didn't reassign it. Okay, there we go. So yeah, so that means that this doesn't mutate the original, this method doesn't mutate the original, or doesn't change the original string, which I guess probably what it most of the time, but doesn't change the original string. It just like creates a new instance. So it takes a string and then it creates something else with it. So I'm saving that here, and then I'm now console logging it. But yeah, and then if you had something like Fred, so there are two R's. So we could say, look for any R, just so we can see the global flag work. Look for any R and replace it with the word cool. Cool, cool, click. Yeah. Say it again? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's what I got on these methods.
You could make like a pig Latin generator with this.
You can make like a what?
Like a pig Latin generator.
A what?
Like,
You never heard of Pig Latin?
you ever heard of that?
No, what is that? Do you know what this is?
Pig Latin?
Oh, Pig Latin. Oh, okay, yeah, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, did you want me to keep going through these, Eric, actually? Or what do you think?
Yeah, I got it. I want to talk about that, the mutability of strings real quick. So, and Martin went over it, but I think it's important to understand. So, yeah, when we ran this, we kind of expected name to be, have this replace stuff happened to it, to name itself. But remember, name is a string, so it's immutable. So name isn't going to change. Martin reassigned name to another string, totally different string when he did this. He's like, hey, name, you're no longer pointing to that old string that you were pointing to. Now you're going to point to whatever dot replace returns. So another way we could have seen how dot replace was behaving is just by console logging this. Oh, my computer's going to freak out. Oh, not too bad. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but it's not too bad. I've seen it freak out way worse. So now we're console logging whatever dot replace returns. So it's returning a brand new string, but we get a console log it. So that's how we get to see the from defined. What do I need to add?
Did it deleted what you were changing the pattern to?
Oh, the second argument, huh? So replace I think is actually probably much more useful than match. And it's gonna be useful, I mean, most of the time with the regex, Talon's right, you just go to Stack Overflow, it's like regex for telephone number, regex for blah, blah, blah. And you can just find the regex for it. Understanding the principles though, is gonna help make that whole process easier. But yeah, code challenges and stuff will sometimes use replace as well. Okay, let's get this one. Slice, this is another one that's not gonna change your string, but instead returns a substring of your string. So let's keep working with Frederick. Yeah. So slice returns part of that string. And it takes at least 2 arguments, but the 2 arguments is where to start from. So if we want to start at the first, and then the second is where to end. So what is this going to spell out for me? Yeah, it's kind of a trick question. So the second index, the rule here is up to but not including this index. So
does it start at 0 or does it start at 1? Like when does it start counting?
it's,
Does it start at 0 and then count to 4?
yeah.
Give us bread.
It's gonna give us, well, it's gonna give us index 0. We're telling it to start up 1, 2. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right, Fred. Oh, name is not defined. I defined it right here. Oh, it's not defined right here. So since I defined it, I tried to use it before I defined it, but yeah. So up to, but not including index 4, which is R. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's just say we don't know, we just want to end it at the first D that we find. And we don't know where that D is going to be in our string. Maybe this is Jordrick. I don't know. It's like another name, Friedrich or something. We don't know the name. We just want to cut it off at the D. What would we change? How would we make slice dynamic? Yeah, perfect. So we could do name.index of right in line here. And then what would we pass through index of? Yeah, it's the character that we're looking for. Yep.
I did not know that we could like nest complement like that.
Yeah, so JavaScript will look at this and it'll evaluate this.
So if you want to give stuff after the D, would you do like index of D?
You could do like index of D plus 1. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. So you can do little math in here. So this will evaluate the 4, and then this will evaluate to 5. So again, this is one of those things that if you can look at it and see really quickly what's going on, it's great. But if it's like a little bit, if your line is, if too many things are going on, you can start defining variables. So like, index of D as a variable or something like that. But a lot of JavaScript reads a little bit like English, so we can, or we'll, at least you'll start to understand what it's doing right away. So
I'm sorry, what are we doing exactly here?
So yeah, good question. We're trying to find the D in name, and then then we were trying to go one more, but right here we're just trying to find the D and then cut it off
Yeah,
there.
I have that 0.
That's where you start.
Yeah, that's the starting position.
You can
So
start
you
from
always
there.
have to have a starting position
Yeah.
on the index.
Yeah. It can take one argument too.
It's one argument, there's kind of, it's supposed to be till the end.
Yeah. So it's going to start at 2, 0, 1, 2, and then go to the end. Edric. And then you can do negatives too, so you can say, hey, start 2 from the end. I think that's how it works. Yeah.
So does it save it in a new variable? Or, I just don't know how much data is being, taken away with slice.
So I think with that, if you could probably do like let, whatever you want in the variable, equal to slice or whatever. It's a different thing, but if you want to go back.
Oh, okay, so name isn't getting changed right here, it's just, we're just console logging,
Yeah.
what happened.
That's exactly right.
Substring, is that right?
They're very similar. They're kind of like might be different, but they do essentially the same thing.
So if you console log name, what do we get?
Yeah. So name is not going to change until we reassign it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What
So-
about splices?
Splice is an array method. And I'm glad you brought this up actually. So splice will change your array. So strings don't get a splice because we can't change strings. And then when you're working with arrays, if you want your original array changed, you use splice, but slice, arrays also have a slice. So it's that's how I remember it. It's like, oh, slice is the string method, strings are immutable, so this dot slice isn't going to change my array. Cool.
And then that index of find the D, how did you do that again?
Okay, who has a guess what this will look like when I console log it? Name.repeat too. Yep. Yep. So this is the string that Martin and I concatenated earlier. So what's this gonna say?
Yeah.
I guess we did this. Yes. But this is a yes. Okay, split. This is an important one. Who knows what split does?
It'll break up into an array on a certain condition. And if you don't really assign it a condition, it'll just do it on every letter.
Cool. I think. Well, let's see. I think it's white space. So
I put quotes to do it on every letter.
let's see if it is white space real quick. The default. Nope. I don't know what the default is, but yeah. So you have to give it. You have to tell it what to split on. And what were you saying, Talon? To make it split on every character?
you just do like single quotes or double quotes?
Cool. Make sure they're empty. But yeah, quotes.
Quotes will do white space if you do it on, like if you do a space inside those quotes.
Yeah, so we have a space there, and that's how, if you wanted to cut a sentence up into words, then you can do it that way. If you want to cut it up by characters, then you do it this way.
You could do it on a certain letter, I believe.
Yep, you can do it on a certain letter, anything you want. Periods. If you have a whole document and you want to cut it up by sentences, you can.
It's worth noticing that it took out the E's.
Oh yeah,
With that.
it is worth noticing. And teaser for arrays is there's an array method to turn arrays into strings. Okay, and then the last one is trim. It trims off white space. I've never used it, but I'm sure it's used. But I think I've used all the other ones that we've talked. Oh man, is it just from the beginning and the end?
I think you gotta specify.
Oh really?
Maybe. I've never actually used it, but maybe it works kind of like Split does.
I think at least it defaults to the spaces on the sides. Let me look it up and MDM. Trim. Yeah, it trims the white space from the beginning and the end of the string. Yeah, I can't find anywhere where it takes arguments. Anyway, that's string methods. So now we can do the string methods exercise, and you can feel free to test out of this exercise if you do the optional code challenge. So if you do the optional code challenge, you can move it from completed to done. Or you can do these 4 easier ones. Or you can do all 5 and just be very practiced at string methods.
So it's like I did optional on the functions this week, I didn't have to do the other ones.
No, that rule is just for this one. Yeah. And that'll take us to lunch. And yeah, we'll get into array methods this afternoon. So I can't wait till Monday. Whoa. Okay, I guess I won't show you these, but you can figure out how to use them pretty easily, I think. But 2 uppercase and 2 lowercase.